We have a very special guest joining us this morning. We have Ambareesh Baliga. Good morning, Mr. Baliga. Ambareesh Baliga, of course, is an independent market expert. Mr. Baliga, help us understand no positive triggers for the market and thankfully no negative triggers as well. And all we are seeing is a flat trade today. What should investors do in an environment like this?
Good morning, Kartik. In fact, we are in a sort of a range-bound market, and within that range, it's decently volatile because clearly earnings are out of the way, and I think the next big thing is the RBI policy,
Right.
which is tomorrow, and the expectation is 25 basis points cut, which is already discounted by the markets. In case there's a 50 basis points cut, which would be a surprise, I think then the markets could react. And I think the other thing which is, playing out globally, other than Trump tariffs, which is quite volatile, it is the Russia-Ukraine issue. I mean, post the drone attack, I think the next 24 to 48 hours is quite crucial because the sort of statements which are coming from Russia, I think, can shake the markets. So I think that's something to be watched out for.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would say that the Nifty is in a broad range of about 24,400 to 25,200. Should not really break these two ends for the next couple of weeks, unless, of course, there is some major news which comes out globally.
All right. So major news, of course, like you're saying, the Trump tariffs continue to be volatile territory. And of course, the Russia-Ukraine war and Russia's retaliation on Ukraine is something that markets will watch closely. I think another thing, Mr. Baliga, that markets will continue to watch closely would be oil. And what we are seeing is that oil is continuing to be in the below $65 a barrel
Right.
level. And that is something which is likely to augur well for India as an economy, as well as energy stocks. So if you look at energy stocks like Reliance, for example, Reliance is about 0.7% up in trade this morning. So how important is this $65 level for oil prices, and how do you feel that tomorrow's MPC is going to take into account the sort of normalization of crude prices before coming up with a growth estimate for the year?
Oil prices between $60 to $65 is, I think, an extremely good equilibrium. I say equilibrium because this is good for the consuming countries as well as the producer countries.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to MPC, I think clearly, the effect of crude is seen on inflation, and inflation has been benign. For a while. Especially below the RBI levels. So I think because of which they would clearly have that 25 bips cut. But like I said, there can be a surprise 50 basis points cut also.
And talk to us also, Amrish, about the consumption stocks, because usually the rate cut is supposed to augur well for consumption stocks, but we see transmission of a rate cut takes much longer than transmission of a rate hike. So how do you see consumption stocks performing from here on?
Consumption stocks, we expect that to perform decently well. One is clearly on the rate cut side, but beyond that, it's the good monsoons. And whenever we have seen good monsoons, especially in the rural areas, we have seen the consumption shooting up much faster. And that's what we expect. And that's, I think, the management commentary which has been coming from most of the FMCG companies. So, we clearly expect after a long time, it's most of the stocks have been down for close to about last 12 to 15 months because of lower demand. But now, clearly, we expect the demand to start picking up. So I think the next 2 quarters, we should see most of the stocks in the green.
All right. And talk to us specifically about urban consumption and the impact on FMCG stocks, because urban consumption has not kept its pace with rural consumption. And despite low inflation, that continues to be a worry for India's overall consumption story and GDP growth.
I think even that should play out over the next 2 quarters
Okay.
because the effect of the tax cuts, the tax breaks which we got in the budget, I think
Mm-hmm.
that should be felt, especially this quarter and the next quarter. So I suppose we should even see the urban consumption slowly picking up.
All right. And what about the auto stocks? Because again, it's a rate-sensitive sector. Automobiles, auto loans, EMIs, all linked to what the RBI does tomorrow. Of course, if it's a 50 basis point bonanza, there's likely to be greater movement. But let's assume it continues to be a 25 basis point cut that everybody has factored in. How do
Right.
auto stocks likely react to that news?
See, any cut in rates is positive for the auto space because clearly the demand moves up because the financing becomes cheaper. But at the same time, we also need to keep in mind the other development which is happening is regarding the rare earths and the China's hold on that and sort of ban which they have announced, and because of which there could be trouble for the auto companies going ahead. I mean, a few of them have even said that, especially the EV manufacturers have said that possibly there could be a shutdown post July. Yeah, I mean, if this is not sorted out. So I think this is something which we need to keep in mind. If this gets sorted out, then yes, I think it's overall positive for the auto space because the demand surely should move up.
All right, demand should go up. I'm also looking at Eternal, the parent company of Zomato, and that stock seems to be up almost 3% or so in trade. Anything that we are missing? What's really going on with Zomato?
No, I mean, clearly, the way the demand has been moving up in that space and the way they've been performing, I think this stock is clearly in a upward trajectory. I mean, I'll not be surprised if we see, if I see that stock crossing 300 quite soon.
All right, crossing 300 soon. Okay, that's a big news coming in. I also want to spend a minute talking to you, Ambareesh, about Adani Ports. Of course, we have seen Adani's denial that there was no LPG gas import from Iran and has denied the baseless allegations, as it calls, against the report published by the Wall Street Journal. And we had seen earlier this week that stock had taken a little bit of a beating. But again, Adani Ports is up almost 1% or so in trade this morning. Now, given all that is going to happen with Trump tariffs or not going to happen with Trump tariffs once the July 9th deadline sort of expires, what happens to shipping, logistics, ports and companies like Adani Ports?
No, clearly, I expect a decent amount of watering down by Trump because, with the sort of tariffs they're talking about, more than hurting the rest of the world, it's going to hurt the American population. So I think there would be a practical sort of a solution to that, which should be acceptable to everyone. In fact, if we are talking of slightly medium term, I'm not really too bothered about the Trump tariffs, although it will add to volatility, at least in the near future. And when we talk of the controversies, concerning the Adani Group, we have seen in the past that whenever there has been controversies, it has affected the stock of the group. But
Yeah,
finally, they have found a solution to it and things have cooled off. And
right.
especially when we talk of Adani Ports in specific, like the way they have control over the ports in India. And in fact, they control close to about 27% of the total volumes
Yeah.
of the Indian ports. So if you are bullish on Indian economy, I don't think you can go wrong on Adani Ports.
All right. Cannot rule out Adani Ports if you're bullish on the Indian economy. Mr. Baliga, one final question to you, and this one is coming from now the fact that the steel and aluminium tariffs are there. We haven't really seen much of an impact on India's own steel makers. So Tata Steel, for example, which has more interest in UK and UK manufacturing plants, has been left out of the Trump tariffs because it happens to operate out of UK. Hindalco, on the other hand, has factories in the US, so again has been spared. But even a stock like JSW Steel, for example, we haven't really seen the kind of beating that one was expecting on India Steel stocks. What's going on? Are we really going to get impacted with these 50% tariffs?
No, but see, looking at the sort of volumes which get exported there, I don't think it's really going to matter too much to the Indian steel manufacturers, including JSW. So I think it was only a sentimental impact the day it was announced. And post that, once people realize that the effect is not going to be too much, it's actually come off.
All right. Well, Mr. Baliga, thank you so much for sharing all these details and inputs with us. Pleasure having you on News 9 as always.